Welcome to the Power of Lifting podcast. I'm Eric Cafferty, owner of the Mecca Gym. I am a strength and conditioning coach and a contest prep specialist. The focus of this podcast is to dive into the mindset and the drive of people who have done incredible things with their lives. Welcome to the podcast, the Power of Lifting podcast. And, we play psychologist a lot on this podcast. But today, we actually have a psychologist on the podcast, a school psychologist, no less.
Yes.
But arguably, more importantly, we have a national and soon-to-be world-level power lifter, Miss Stephanie Carpenter. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show.
I'm excited to
So
be here.
excited.
Yes, I'm very excited. So you were gracious enough to fill out our questionnaire, which is good because you've won so many things. There's no way that I could remember them. So
you're supposed to know. You're my coach.
I mean,
there's too many things. He's only one man.
Exactly. I mean, when you've won so many things. So I'll read a few off. So we ask crowning achievements, and she says being a mom to two beautiful young women, and Nona to
Nona
to four amazing grandchildren. Hence the IG handle Deadlift Grandma. Qualifying in 2019 for Raw Nationals for USA Powerlifting, placing second in the Masters 1B, correct?
Just one. Then
they don't separate it. That's right. It's one, but in the 84 kg class, 21st in the open 84 kg, which is insanely impressive.
Yes.
And you qualified to represent USA Powerlifting in the 2019 World Bench Press competition, but canceled due to COVID. Go COVID.
I know.
COVID.
I know.
She holds many a state record in the state of Idaho here. The 84 kilo class, raw open squat, raw open deadlift, and the Idaho state record in the 84 kilo Masters 1A class and deadlift, squat, bench press, and total.
Just all of it.
Idaho state record in the 84 kg Masters 1B class and the squat, bench, dead, press, and total. Yeah, so all of it. Lots of records.
Thank goodness for writing that out for us, Stephanie.
I mean, praise the Lord. So all of the records. You won Best Lifter on at least one occasion. Okay. No, just one. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yes, big deal.
Pretty awesome. So right off the bat, what got you into powerlifting?
Well, probably a couple years before I went into powerlifting, before my first meet, and it was in May of 2016. I had been involved in a group fitness type, like a CrossFit type of a workout. I know, not really officially CrossFit, but it was very much like a HIIT.
CrossFit-esque.
Yeah, it was a HIIT workout type thing, and the trainer there had watched me lift and was like, "You're really strong at this." I'm like, "Yeah, all right, whatever," Right. And it was around New Year's, and he had said, we're all talking about New Year's goals and all that stuff, and he said, "I challenge you to enter into a powerlifting competition. In fact, there's one coming up in May." And I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
And he goes, "No, I will write you out a program, and I'll give you space, that you can go out and work out in this extra, training room, and so you can prepare just for those 3 lifts." I knew nothing about the technicality at all.
Right.
And so I started doing his little program and a basic program. And I showed up at the meet, and I think I borrowed singlets.
Yeah, there you go.
And stuff like that.
Was that a meet here?
No, it was over at Berserker.
Okay.
It wasn't even Berserker at that time.
Oh,
yeah,
so
it's
just
like,
a different
it was like a CrossFit gym or
I can't remember. Yeah. And before the meet, Misha had sent out an email to all the lifters saying, if anybody's completely new, meet me here at the Mecca, and I can go over the calls and the technicality. So I show up, and I remember the first time I walked in the Mecca, I was like, I was so scared to even walk in the door. But she was gracious and spent time in going through each of the lifts and the calls, and the technicality of it. So I showed up to the meet with a borrowed singlet. And
that's risky.
It was
risky.
And I think I was more afraid, not of the calls and the technicality. I was more afraid of walking out in front of everyone in a singlet. And then
it's different.
It is so different.
But it's like not a bodybuilding company.
No, but it's still, nobody looks good in a singlet.
That's very true.
Nobody does. And when I walked out the first time, I was all like, all embarrassed and shy about it. And I walk out and I look around and I realize, yeah, nobody looks good. I'm okay. Yeah. It's like going to Roaring Springs and you look around and you're like, hey, I'm not so bad.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
That's hilarious.
And I did that meet and absolutely loved it. I don't remember. I'm sure I failed on some technicalities, but I got a good total, and I think I got an award, like first or second or something in some of the lifts.
Oh, dang.
I did pretty
Fantastic.
well.
Yeah, that's great.
But I loved it so much that I knew I wanted to go further, and that was in May. Mm-hmm. I met with you in June. I scheduled an appointment with you in June, and started coaching and you training me starting in July of 2016.
We just found out.
Yeah.
We just found out. We just remembered.
Yeah, I just remembered. I thought it was like 2018, and I started looking it up, and I was like, oh.
I was thinking about it yesterday, and I was like, I think it was 17, but it was 2016.
Yeah.
2016.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. So, Stephanie, what was it about powerlifting? Like, was just the whole experience as a whole, doing the lifts, that really you fell in love with?
Well, I loved, it was a huge confidence thing. Well, besides wearing a singlet that shows everything. Besides wearing the singlet, it was a huge confidence thing to go out there and put up some numbers. Mm-hmm. And just realizing, kind of competing against yourself and realizing I am stronger than I think I am or ever thought I was going to be. Mm-hmm. And then in the world of powerlifting, there's such a camaraderie of people, and everybody is cheering on everybody from all different fitness levels. And, from people like me that just showed up in a borrowed singlet, and to people that have been lifting for a long time and that are elite lifters. Yeah. And so that community really, really got me in. But truly it was the confidence and the strength and it was a game changer, really, for me in my life. Yeah.
So how did that change your perception and your mindset from when, you got challenged to doing the meet to after? Like how did you feel that shift come on? Was it like one moment, like after the meet, or was it like after the first squat attempt you're like, I like this?
It was after the first squat attempt.
Oh wow, that's cool. Yeah.
I mean, truly, it was after that first lift, after you complete it.
Yeah.
You go, oh my gosh, I just did that.
Yeah.
And realizing that I can do more. And then that second attempt and that third attempt, and then realizing the camaraderie and the people that are cheering you on, even though they don't know you, is pretty phenomenal. And then, just realizing too, it was a game changer for me in my health, overall health, as far as my fitness level. And, as I was filling out the questionnaire, I was thinking about, it's not just the fitness level and taking care of my body, but it's also the mental health level.
Oh, for sure.
And I often joke about, people are like, oh my gosh, you go to the gym so much, or, and when I'm really in a training cycle prepping for a meet, it's
Quite
2.5 hours every time, sometimes 3 hours every night.
Those good old powerlifter rest breaks.
You're right.
Let me tell you.
You're just having
and you can't rush it. So
you can't rush perfection stuff.
Right.
We all want to.
Right. Yeah. Or maybe it's just the Eric Cafferty programs. I don't know.
Listen.
But
I get results.
I joke. Yeah. Right. They do get results. Yeah. But the reality is that it's my therapy.
Oh,
and being in the profession that I'm in, it is important that I have self-care. They talk a lot about that in my profession, as far as we see so much trauma and so much difficult situations on any given day within the school system. Having an outlet that was a positive, natural way for me to release the dopamine, to release all those things that help.
But yeah, I think that mentally there started to be a shift when it went from something that was
kind of fun and relaxed. Not that meets are ever relaxed, because there's always pressure to perform and things like that, but there wasn't like a lot of pressure to like win stuff, to when you started getting some serious weight on the bar and you started figuring out like, oh man, like I'm really strong.
I could do this.
I'm really strong. I'm really
I could
strong.
do this,
Yeah,
right?
like we can actually, go places. And then that kind of messes with you, mentally when it comes to the amount of pressure that you put on yourself when, oh, now people have seen that I'm strong. Now I'm expected to be strong. Now like you're not just, this is your first meet or two. Like I'm just out, doing as good as I can, right. And whatever. It's now like people have seen what I'm capable of, and if I don't perform at that level and get better, then people are going to notice, or I'm going to let people's expectations down. I'm going to let my own expectations down. I've hit certain numbers in the gym, and I want to be able to do those in a meet, and all that kind of thing. I think that psychologically that really changes the game when it comes to like all sports and performance. You know what I mean?
I just heard this quote too. I just like somebody, I think it was the women's soccer team actually, a gal that was on there said it's harder to stay at the top and to actually get to the top. And I guess there's arguments for both sides, but hers was just like, if you've got to continually win, then you're continually meeting expectations, but also having to exceed them. And so, like, if you're the best, then what's that next
level?
Next level, and then people just want to speculate.
One of the things I found like little inspirational quotes or whatever, and I found one that says, "I haven't come this far, I've only come this far." And it goes through this mantra of famous speeches, and they take clips of each of the famous speeches. And I think on this particular one, David Goggins actually reads it. And it's phenomenal. I literally have it on my playlist for meets. And when I'm having to do like that third attempt on any of those, I literally have that on repeat. That to remind me, I put in the work, and I know I can perform. And it's just getting me in the mindset of not watching what other people are expecting of me, and not letting that be the focus, but letting my own expectations and knowing that I've put in the work, I've put in the time, I've put in the training. I have, I have all the technicality stuff down, and I haven't come this far to only come this far. When I reach the top of that mountain, I'm going to find another mountain as one of the things in there. And this is a reminder of this is not over, and there's so much more to accomplish.
Yeah. Well, I think at some points, like people really, just flat out don't know how much they're capable of.
Right.
And then you start putting these self-imposed limits on things like, oh, I'm lifting, 200 pounds. That's a lot. Who says that's a lot? That might be, other people might consider that a lot. But for you, that's not a lot. For you, that's normal, right? So, I mean, that's one of the powerful things about training, in a gym where powerlifters train is there's always a stronger guy. You know what I mean?
Always.
And so you're always seeing people move these massive amount of weights, and they're just like, oh, okay, they can do it. And so it definitely, puts things in a more like, this is like real world, people actually do this, I can do this, as opposed to seeing it on Instagram.
Well, and that whole mind game is huge, and one of the biggest shifts for me is I think we realized probably about the state meet time that you controlled all of my numbers. That if I saw what you're putting down for my next attempt, a second or third attempt, then I would start this doubt thing, this doubt game. And so if I had no idea what was on the bar when I walked out there, and that was why it was important for me to have my headphones on to the very last second, so I couldn't hear them announcing, she's going to attempt, da-da-da-da-da. So if I had no idea, then it didn't play in my head, but the doubt didn't. And I would just go out there because I put in the work. And that's what I tell myself, put in the work. I lift heavy things. I can do this. There's no reason why I can't. So I had no reason to doubt when I didn't know what the number was. And because of that, I think that I shifted a lot in my mind, and I could do it. And the other thing I think that was pivotal in my training and meet days was using video.
Oh yeah.
And I constantly, and probably people are like tired of me recommending it when they're talking to me out in the gym, but I'm like, let me video that for you. Because my mind, it's like those memes that you see is, what your mom thinks you do, what your friends think you do, what you think you do, and then what you actually do.
Yeah.
The video for me is huge when I'm training for a lift, because I can see my form exactly and have an objective view, because I'm not objective when I just think about it.
Well, the way you feel things can be a lot different than the way you think.
Right.
You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to heavy weight stuff, you're like, oh man, that's so slow, like it just feels so heavy, and then you watch that video and you're like, oh, that wasn't bad.
No, well, I think, oh my gosh, I look like a dog taking a dump, on my deadlift, and then you watch it and you're like, oh, my form was actually intact, and that was faster than it felt. Yeah. And so at meet time, I actually have somebody assigned that videos every lift, and as soon as I walk off the platform, I watch the video to rewrite the story in my head from what my feelings were to the reality of what it was.
That's cool. Write that down, powerlifters.
It's definitely one of the most beneficial things you can do, because it does give you that objective view, and your brain is not objective.
No.
Your conscious mind is a real downer.
Yeah.
So
that was a huge game changer for me. Huge to start videoing, consistently like that.
I think too, sorry, Eric, the fact that you had somebody you can trust as well on your side to be like, hey, Eric, I trust you to put the weight on the bar that will help me improve, that I can improve myself, and all that kind of stuff. So, and then having somebody who can be accountable to you, and also tell you the reality.
And having, I cannot stress enough, when people are starting out in powerlifting, is to find a good coach, somebody that gets to know you and gets to know your body, gets to know. Because I'm not typical compared to other clients in the fact of my age and my hormonal balance of things, the whole menopause thing and all that. So I'm not very typical, but having a coach that knows that and knows science enough to know that I'm going to need different recovery times and I'm going to need different volumes, I guess, is really important. But also to have that coach that is sensitive enough to encourage you and give you the confidence that you may not have. And telling you constantly, I can't tell you how many times Eric on meet day and training day is like, Stephanie, you've put in the work. You've got this. And I know you can lift this weight. And having somebody constantly in your ear telling you, you've put in the work, you've done this. This is huge.
That's the rule. I never put anything on the bar that you can't lift.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. There's never any doubt.
Yeah.
But the other thing, too, is, the cueing and all of that is so key too. People, downplay that. Like, you can be strong all day long, but if you're not, following the specific powerlifting rules, and still, fitting those rules in with the biomechanics of things, some people just have to, squat differently, and they have to do certain things to be able to achieve certain depths to their squat, or you name it, but all that stuff is very important. But
overlooked a lot by people. Like, I think I'll lift weights.
Yeah.
Right.
One thing I don't think that we've talked about a ton is, how has your job and your career impacted your lifting, in that, like, the education that you have and what you've learned being a psychologist, how has that impacted the psychological side of powerlifting, would you say?
It's had a really, I think, good relationship with it. It's been a good melding of two different worlds in a sense.
Very different.
Yeah, where I am focused on my mindset, and I know how important that is. The psychology part of that. I know how important that is. I put things in front of me as far as books that I read and things like that that talk about mindset, and I'm wanting to grow in that. I have a very growth-minded mindset as it is. So I think that just translates really well into the powerlifting world, and especially at a competitive or elite level. You have to have a growth-minded mindset, and you have to, and one of the game changer books for me was It Takes What It Takes by Trevor Moawad. And his mantra of neutral thinking, and it's beyond like positive thinking of visualizing yourself doing I do those things. I visualize the cues. I visualize me executing all of the different technical parts of the lift, but it's also being able to, when you don't have a successful lift, to come off the platform, watch the video, and go, oh, it was just this one little thing. I've done this before. I can do this. And I just have to tweak this. And that's what that neutral mindset is realizing that that one split-second mistake does not define the rest of everything else. And being able to do that. And that's where I think my background in psychology has helped tremendously with that. And I actually refer, or I use exercise and fitness and powerlifting a lot when I'm talking with students and families. Constantly, I'm asking, what kind of things are you doing extracurricularly? Especially when there's mental health issues. For anxiety or depression, things like that. Are you involved in any sports? And then if there's any interest at all in weightlifting, I share my story, and I say, oh my gosh, this is what it's done for me, and in fact, many times I've actually offered to meet a student in the gym and say, I will lift with you, and I would love to, and things like that, and I talk about it a lot and how it's been something that's healthy for me mentally and emotionally to do as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's super, super cool. So, we'll move on with our questionnaire a little bit here. You say things that you're most proud of, children and grandchildren.
Of course, right?
I mean, that's
absolutely.
So, we ask a little bit how exercise has advanced your life, strength, confidence, overall physical and emotional health, and friendships. So, what would you say is most noticeable about that tangible on a daily basis? So, you talk about like the benefits of mental health that you get with exercise. What does that translate to for you?
Gosh, a reduction in anxiety. I have a highly stressful job, and I've had life events that are incredibly stressful, and traumatic. But I know that being consistent in my training makes all of those things a lot more manageable. In fact, at different times, right after placing second at nationals, literally I got home on Monday, and my mom that day had an aneurysm, and she passed away. And for a couple of weeks, I don't think I came to the gym because of the whole situation and dealing with the family and grieving. But it came to a point that my kids and husband were like, you need to get back in.
Something's not.
You just need to go. You need to go back to the gym. And I knew I needed to go back to the gym. And when I got back into the consistency of training, I already signed up for a meet that was going to be like the next month in Las Vegas. And it was a horribly hard decision to continue to go through that meet, even though I felt so depleted emotionally and even physically after nationals. So
November. Very fast.
It was after it's such a big meet.
It was like a month in between.
Wow.
And it wasn't my best meet, but it wasn't my worst meet. I did just fine.
Yeah, you did.
And I think I needed it emotionally more than I did physically.
Yeah, something to concentrate on.
I did something to concentrate on, and also I think it was a step towards getting more resiliency or more grit of realizing life happens. And I'm not the only one that was on that platform that has experienced something traumatic in the last month. And realizing that when I go and train in the gym, I'm not the only one that's going through a bunch of crap in their life. And life is going to continue to throw things at you. But one of the ways that you can work through those things is being consistent in your healthy habits. And so that's been huge for me, and staying consistent with that.
Absolutely. So the top 3 things that you're passionate about. So mindset, obviously you talked a lot about that. Very important. Overall health and habits. So You talk about, healthy habits. What does that look like for you? So how are you planning your day? How are you planning, you think a lot of people can probably relate to you in that they have, a stressful job or a tight schedule. How are you putting your training in? How are you planning your food around stuff like
Well, I
that?
was here till 8:30 last night
Yeah.
because the only time I had to train was after my day and appointments after work were done. And so I came in at 7 p.m. And it's still being committed enough to try to fit it in. Just figuring out if I have to get up at 4 a.m., I'm going to get up at 4 a.m. to do it. So I think number one, being intentional about planning for that is really important.
Plan.
Be intentional. Intentional. Yeah, you have to. So I actually legit schedule it into my schedule. Eating within the workday can be really difficult because I never know what's going to be thrown at me in a school day.
Right.
At times and with meetings and working with students. So it's hard for me to eat it at a consistent time.
Mm-hmm.
So I plan intentionally, and I have things packed. I have a large lunchbox that I carry with me. So when I have that moment, I'm going to be eating what is in my lunchbox. So I'm not grabbing something out of the teacher's lounge.
Right.
Or
just anything that
no,
you can get your
right.
hands on, yeah.
So I'm grabbing the healthy choices that I've already done. And I do much, much better whenever I meal prep, like on the weekend.
Yes.
I know, it takes
Have we talked
time.
about that before, Eric?
And every time I know, I've listened to all the podcasts, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh yeah. Those are all right. Those are right.
Yes.
And whether that be meal prepping using like Ava's flavors and stuff like that, using things like that, I've totally done that. And I've also done the thing where I make tons of chicken and tons of whatever, turkey. And I literally have it all in containers ready for me to take in my lunchbox with me.
This is the way people, it's not just the crazy bodybuilders
No.
or the bikini girls trying to build butts. This is powerlifters. This is normal people. Everybody should be prepping healthy food and not eating McDonald's.
Yes, yeah.
For the love of God.
Don't get in that long line.
No.
I saw it again today, dude. I went for a walk. I went for my midday walk.
To get ice?
And there they were. I didn't get ice. I should have. But all those people in the McDonald's line, I just want to, I'm going to be that dude with a sign.
Right at the entrance.
Yeah.
Like, turn around.
So, all right, but let's be honest. One of the things I've realized as I become more viewing food as fuel for my body and fuel for my lifts.
Yes.
I mean, truly, I know when I have not eaten enough carbohydrates and enough protein, I know because it shows in my lifts.
Absolutely.
And so it's really important to eat those macros. So the thing I've realized is that it has to be sustainable for me.
Absolutely.
If I'm on this really restricted, only eat this, and this, and this, I don't think I can be a bodybuilder because of that. Because
sure you could. Bodybuilders don't do that either.
Yeah. Well, I just go, oh my gosh, it has to be something that's sustainable that I can do, and I have to be able to have those meals where I'm going to go out with my friends and I'm going to have the whatever I want, type thing, and have a drink or whatever. I have to have that written into my plan, but I plan for it intentionally. I intentionally plan for it. So there have been days where I'm like, oh my God, I didn't plan ahead, things like that, and so I'm going to have to sit in the line. And then I literally get on the nutritional part of wherever I'm at, whether it be Chick-fil-A or whatever. I look at the nutritional values, and I choose the things that are the most clean that I could possibly eat. So, right. And to me, that's sustainable.
Absolutely.
and so, but I have the most success, and I'm overall happier. Emotionally, and I do better in the gym and training when I've intentionally planned it out.
Absolutely. Not McDonald's fries.
No.
No. Not going to happen.
Well, you're just not going to perform. I mean,
no.
So your intentionality.
Okay.
I like the intentionality.
So now, yes. So now that we're on the topic of food, if you are going to have a cheat meal, what is it? We have to ask this.
You know what? It's totally a bacon cheeseburger.
Oh man, from where?
I like Main Street. You're in Meridian.
Yeah, there you go.
I drove by it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I've not had it. We're gonna have to add that.
You need to add that to your list. A bacon cheeseburger from Main Street is my go-to cheat meal.
Wow.
And I've calculate the macros down, like fit it in.
Yeah, you're gonna have to text
Yeah.
the rest of
Well, and then I have to make sure I've ate really clean carbs, low carbs before I go into it, and my fat intake is really low going into it. But it's worth it every time. I have no regrets.
No regrets.
It's the fats. It is. It is lots of fats, but they have the right sequence of how they stack it. It is, and their sauce is just perfect, and the pickles and the onions. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fantastic.
But I also, as I've ate more clean, my palate has changed.
Oh, for sure.
And so, I mean, over the years, I can see it where I crave the more clean foods and the things that are going to fuel me. Like I'm a steak girl. Give me a great, another cheat meal would be prime rib. And I say cheat just because of the fat content.
Right. None of these are quote unquote cheating, but non-typical.
There you go.
Yeah. That's like my go-to, especially lately is probably like that good steak.
So what's the pre-meat fuel meal? What's that look like? Not the Hawaiian sweet.
I'm like, because that's what you do for me.
But day before, that sort of thing. If we're not trying to make weight.
If I'm not, when is it ever not trying to make weight? Okay, in a make believe world where I'm not making weight, I'm going to have a great steak. I'm going to have a good portion of good vegetables. Broccoli. I actually like broccoli. I know, and I'd have some potato in there. And
to my recollection, the night before Nationals in 2019, it was a big potato and steak.
It was totally that. Yeah, that would be my go-to. Yeah, loved it. It was great.
Oh man,
my mouth is actually watering.
I'm
thinking it because it was so good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, I'm hungry now.
Yeah,
okay.
Very good.
So the third thing you say you're passionate about. Being intentional about investing in relationships and things that add meaning and purpose to life. I think that's a really cool thing to put that you're passionate and obsessed with something like that, because I totally agree. Building strong relationships with those around you. I mean that's what life's all about. Right?
It is, and I as I've gotten older, I am
shed your wisdom on us.
Yeah, well, as I've gotten older, and I actually have a tattoo that says "Live it well," and it's a reminder to me, and it's from a Switchfoot song called "Live it well," and it's you only have one life to live. Yeah. And even more so, probably in the last couple of years, just life experiences like the death of my mother, and then a year later, my brother passed away from an unexpected heart attack. Of course, at 50.
Yeah.
And yes, and things like that make me really reflect on what are my choices and what am I intentionally putting my time and my effort on? Is that something that's adding value to my life? Or is that something that is taking away from my life? And so sometimes that means setting those boundaries to say no to certain things that are good things, but still say no because they're not adding value to your life and they're not something that's going to help you grow. And that means sometimes those relationships too that you're going to let go, along the side of your life, whether it be friendships or whatever, that aren't adding value and aren't giving you fuel to grow.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if they're, a lot of relationships can be hindering growth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy to me why people hold on to stuff like that. Like, for example, I know that you do this, but drinking on the weekends with friends and stuff like that when you want to, be a competitive powerlifter, be a serious athlete, or whatever. You just want to get healthy, and then you go, you drink on the weekends with your buddies, drinking the brewskis all day on Saturday, watching college football. It's like
now, occasionally that's okay, but not every weekend.
No,
you know what I'm saying? It's allowing yourself to live life. But at least that's what it is for me. I just have to do something sustainable, but it's not on a consistent basis. I can't do that. Right. And put it, again, surrounding yourself with the right people in the right environment. And for me, that has been the Mecca. And I mean, truly, and I don't say that just because you're my coach. And
we pay her.
This is a sponsor.
Yeah. No, but you've got to find that place. And for me, it's the Mecca where sort of like the Cheers environment.
Right.
Norm, it's so good to see you, whatever it may be.
Everyone knows.
Yes, we have a
Yes, where everybody, where everybody knows your name. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, truly, that's what it is. Where everybody knows your name, and you are free to come in, and you will, And I feel like the Mecca is that a lot of people say, "Oh my gosh, I could never." When they ask me where I train, I say, "Oh, I go to the Mecca." I could never go there because there's so many elite bodybuilders and powerlifters there, and I'd feel like such the idiot trying to do anything. And I'm like, no. I mean, truly, if you come in, and the first time is always intimidating in any gym, but if you spend any time, you will see every fitness level here, and you will see everybody just working. And when you spend the time to get to know some of the people, they're all encouraging. I count the people here as some of my really good friends that are in my corner.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And we are all in the corner, for sure. So tell us your goals. Your we asked for 2 to 5 year goals. Let's go with powerlifting here. What are our 2 to 5 year goals here?
Well, immediate. I'm going to say immediate. This is like less than a 2-year goal for me. But immediately, I just had in May, I had a total knee replacement done.
Heck yeah, you did.
I did, and no regrets. And I have to say, I have to say this though, because it's a lot of people that don't understand the fitness part. A lot of people when they hear, "Oh, you've had a total knee replacement," it's because you are lifting those heavy weights.
Right.
And the reality is that every doctor I went to before I made that decision had said, "I'm so glad you're in powerlifting, or that you do this, because you prolong the life of your knee because you built all of those muscles around it."
Absolutely.
It just genetically, my knee was not designed in a good structural way.
No.
And
sometimes you built those dark.
I know, and so I had no cartilage left, and so it was time.
Yeah.
And so I have no regrets of that. And I think powerlifting, because of how strong I am, my recovery and my rehab has been so much faster and so much more smooth.
Yeah.
So my immediate goal is to continue that rehab and to actually compete in December.
Yeah.
That's my goal.
Same year.
It's happening.
That's what I really want to do.
Decision.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I realize, it's not that I'm thinking negatively. I realize that I may not hit the 400-pound squat or the 390 squat that I can do, that I used to do before my knee replacement in December. Yeah, in December. But again, it speaks to that grit or that resilience and that mindset, and the consistent habit that I have of I know I can go out there and put up some good numbers.
Yeah. No, I think that the thing that one of the many things that I appreciate about you, especially in this realm, going into talking about the knee surgery and recovery and things like that, is the lessons that other people can learn from this. Like you said, people are saying, "Oh, well, you power lift in XYZ, that's why your knee is, that's why you're having knee surgery at this young of age." It's like, well, no, that's not the case. I think people just have a really poor perception. They have this stigma around weightlifting and like, oh, you have to, you go in the gym and you lift weights and you turn into this meathead or, whatever.
Well, they're using it as an excuse, I think.
Absolutely.
That's 100%. Yeah. Well, they don't, people, might not want to come into the gym because, they're intimidated, of course, or, have other reasons behind the name of that. I think a lot of people just do make those excuses in their head, like, "Oh, I don't want to get too big.
Or I want to get injured, or I don't, I'm too old."
Yeah.
Well, they know Stephanie can squat 400 pounds. They cannot. So they say, "Oh, because you did that, you got hurt." To make themselves feel better. And it's just such a backwards mindset.
It is.
It's, but, something that's incredibly powerful, for people to watch, and people should be paying attention, people of all walks of life, is, just the process that you've gone through going into surgery and now coming out of surgery. I mean, it was like months and months of, squatting with knee pain and doing things with pain, working through that pain, you know, doing that builds mental calluses on you for sure. And you're going through that process, you know, and, you know, now that you can go through and squat, I mean, obviously it's different now, but in the future, you know, you're going to be thinking back to, you know, now I don't have any excuses because my pain is gone.
Yeah.
I don't have that issue anymore. Like, it's go time.
Absolutely.
I mean, how freeing is that to be dealing with this nagging pain all the time, and then, you know, it's going to be fixed. It's gonna be
well, and when I chose the surgeon I did, one of the first questions I asked, you know, I went to 3 different doctors. I said, do I have to give up what I'm doing? And the surgeon I chose said, absolutely not. There's no reason to think it. And then I checked, like, no, really. I can back squat over 400 pounds. I can do that with a artificial knee. Yeah. And it was no hesitation whatsoever. I'm like, okay, when can we get this done? Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Schedule it.
Yeah. So I have no regrets about that. And I think that, you know, mentally, emotionally, I need to get back out there.
Yeah.
And so what I've done though to get there to the point where I can do that is I've done the rehab. I'm consistent and habitually doing that rehab. I'm building back up those muscles. I'm
showing up to PT, showing up to doing your training.
And I can't stress enough is choosing again the right coach who understands physiology and understands the biomechanics of things, and who also will work with your PT. And so I feel like the PT that I have and you both. I mean, the PT, I show him the program that you've written for me, and he's like, fantastic. You don't need to come to me anymore. And he's like, you got this. And you guys work very, very well together, and finding the people that understand you're an athlete and that you have goals and that you want to continue to work around and work through injury to that. So
anything. We can work around anything. I mean, so before the knee, we had shoulder.
We got my supraspinatus and my subscap, and that was while I was bench pressing with you.
I watched it happen. It was terrible.
It was awful. It was so bad. Well, and what's amazing about that, so I had that happen in February of 2019. I had surgery to repair that, and they had to remove my bicep tendon and repair all that. And then it was almost a year to the date of that surgery. I went back and competed. And I won best lifter at that meet. And again, it's because I was consistent and I listened to my body, didn't push it too fast. And I listened to the PT and I listened to you, and we rehabbed it, and I went back. So.
Yeah, no, truly, truly amazing. But I think, you know, whether it be, you know, God or the powers of the universe, I think that, you know, that injury prepared you mentally very, very well for the knee.
I think you're right.
Because I think that you actually had a harder time mentally with your shoulder than you did your knee. And that happens a lot with people when you've not run into that before. You know, it's kind of, you know, at first when I started coaching people, it was a little bit difficult to comprehend and explain things like that. Because I had been an athlete since I was 3 years old, you know, and I had, you know, broken bones, torn MCLs, torn rotator cuffs, all that stuff, playing sports when I was young, you know. I had an avulsion fracture at like 14. That's horrible. But, you know, after you go through an injury or two, you know, you learn, like, gotta rest, gotta heal, and then what's important is getting back on the horse when the time is right.
And that's for
consistent.
Mindset.
Yeah.
Mindset is everything going back from something like an injury or total knee replacement or whatever. It's everything.
It's a mountain to climb.
It takes a lot of courage. It's like, what if this happens again?
Right. Right.
It takes courage.
Yeah.
Well, and even if it does happen again, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah. Let's do it again. Honestly, like, as an elite athlete, though, like, that shouldn't even be a thought in your mind. Like,
I'm not saying that it does a lot, like, especially with those elite athletes and the competitors, because they're just like, okay, I'm healed and we're going to keep going. I know I personally haven't, but I've had people, you know, kids that I coach that have done the same thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's kind of one of those things. You got to master your fear.
You know what I mean? It's a mind game. I mean, you've got to take control.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm gonna I'm going to go back in December, compete, and my goal is to qualify for the 2022 nationals.
Mm-hmm.
And qualify for that, go, and then qualify for Worlds. That's my ultimate goal. So in 5 years, I want to hit the top 3 at Worlds. That's my goal.
That's goal. And that'll be M2.
Yeah, because I am aging.
You're aging out.
That is one thing that never stops.
We're aging out.
Yes,
of M1,
yes,
right?
yes. Yeah.
Yeah. But, what's crazy, too, is, like our wonderful friend and role model, Perry, we had on
Mm-hmm.
there. Like a fine wine, Stephanie, you just keep getting better and stronger with age.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty incredible that you can be hitting, these kinds of numbers. I mean, and not that you're old by any means, because I don't think your old age is just a chronological number. This is true. But age is just a chronological number.
It is. I actually have a shirt that says age is no excuse.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I wear that sometimes in the gym because it isn't. And I have other shirts that say anti-fragile.
Yeah.
And unfinished is another new one that I have from Kabuki.
Yeah.
And I love the mantra of that is that age is no excuse. And just because you haven't arrived or you're not as good as the person lifting next to you does not mean that you should not be out there.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's funny. I mean, because you were in those shoes, 5 years ago, just getting started. So let's talk about, speaking of 5 years ago to now, and we're talking about goals and things like that. Let's talk some numbers. So where did your numbers start out? Like, what were your first meet numbers?
I think my bench was like a 135.
Which is respectable.
Yeah, like maybe a 135, and I think my deadlift was a 305 or 315.
Also very respectable.
And then my squat was maybe a 240, if I remember right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is good starting numbers, great starting numbers. And at nationals, did you miss your third attempt bench at nationals?
I think I did, but then I went back at the next meet, or before I hit like my top in a meet for bench is 193.
Like 192.7.
Yeah.
But squat, best meet squat was, what did you use at 163 at nationals? Did you hit?
What was it? 363?
363. Yeah, 363 or 367, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
For squat. So that's 120 something.
I mean, honestly, I forget. See, that's another really important thing is I think for mindset is to look where you've come from.
Oh, absolutely.
And to keep that in mind, because it can get really discouraging when you feel like you're hitting this plateau and your lifts are not going anywhere. It's good to go back and look at those past meets or those past gym PRs or whatever and say, oh my gosh, I've increased it by 150 pounds or whatever.
And every little bit of progress counts too. Yeah. Because, if it was, 10 pounds a year, that's still respectful,
And absolutely.
And it slows down to that, believe me, after a while. Oh boy, does it.
Yeah.
But,
big weight,
yeah. I mean, so, squat over 120 pounds, added bench press, what is that, like 70 something pounds added, and then deadlift.
My highest deadlift highest was 424. 424.
420, no, 430, something like that.
Yeah, it was 424
at
nationals. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of weight. Yeah. But that was that was a PR too. In that
really?
Gym
that's exciting.
Yeah. So that was a big deal. That was a pretty.
My highest in the gym was 430.
Okay.
Yeah, because right before everything started really happening with my knee, I hit over 1,000 pound total.
Oh yeah.
In the gym.
That's right.
In June, and then in July I got the diagnosis on my knee.
Yeah. No, I very distinctly remember that. Gym PRs, squat was 290.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
390 pounds.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That feels heavy to me some days.
Yes.
I mean,
yesterday
out
it
loud.
felt heavy to me.
yeah.
My legs are feeling it.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, pretty outstanding in terms of progress, you know. So, I mean, I'm nothing but impressed.
That's right.
You know.
I'll be paying to say that to me. Literally.
So we'll go to if somebody is struggling or stuck, what wisdom would you give them?
What did I even say in that question?
You said really good stuff.
I know, so I better
That's
look it
really
up.
good stuff.
Gosh, I think the main thing is keeping focus on those goals, keeping that in your head, and and I've heard on other podcasts of other people that you've had in here talk about goal setting and making sure that it's realistic to a point, for yourself, but having critical people, the intentional people in your life that's going to help you set those goals for yourself, and that are realistic, but also far reaching.
Yes.
But keeping focus on it, and that and I think that goes for anything. It can go for fitness, it can go for anything professional, it could go for relationships, it could go for anything in life. Is setting those goals and keeping focus on it, and then again, I'm going to use that word, making an intentional plan of the steps you're going to take to get to those goals, and then being intentional about taking those incremental steps, and not expecting it to happen overnight, and because it doesn't always happen overnight, and it's being consistent and trusting the process and putting in the work, just putting in the work, knowing that that work is going to pay off. You're going to see some increases. It may not always look like you think it should or feel like you think it should, but knowing that putting in that work is that's where the money is. That's where it's going to pay off for you. And again, I can't stress enough. I think to get unstuck, you have to be intentional, and you have to surround yourself with the right people and be in the right environment.
So speaking of struggling or stuck, how unsure were you going into that knee surgery that you were going to be able to do what you want to do again?
I don't
Was there any doubt?
No. I can be honestly, I mean, there was a little bit of just uncertainty because I just didn't know what to expect as far as pain and how quickly I could come back.
Right.
But I was convinced that I would come back.
Bound and determined.
So I wasn't afraid that I wasn't going to, because I had one of the top surgeons, Dr. Poole. Shout out Dr. Poole.
Well done. Good job on that.
Honestly, right? But I had a top surgeon that I had researched that understood me as an athlete, and that was telling me, yeah, you will totally go back. And I actually showed him what depth was. I remember it distinctly, the conversation. I'm like, okay, I could do 400 pounds back squat to depth. And he goes, well, tell me what depth is. So I showed him what depth was. Literally. And he's like, yeah, you can. And so I think, again,
proper depth, guys. Crest of the knee above the crease of the hip.
Yeah. And so it's intentionally surrounding yourself with the people that have the knowledge base and expertise, like Dr. Poole or you and my physical therapist, Gridiron Fitness, Dr. Tamara, yep. But it's surrounding yourself with the right people that's going to help you get there. It gives you that confidence that you need, that you're going to overcome any fear. And so, when I woke up and then I tried to take, because within 2 hours I was walking.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, this is different.
Yeah.
And then within 4 weeks, I was back here.
Yeah.
And I was so limited what I could do and so shaky because I just couldn't get the quad to fire and everything.
Yep.
But I knew because of building upon successes. And when you take those incremental steps and you constantly are consistent with that and you're building those habits of being just consistent, I'm just going to show up. I'm just going to show up. Yes. I'm just going to show up. I'm just going to show up. It is amazing to me because people ask me, how does it feel? Does it hurt still? I'm like, oh, of course there's times that it hurts or it feels stiff or whatever. But every day is better than the day before.
Yeah.
And I think that my mindset is that so much that I make it fat, even if it's
Right.
that I amaze myself. I mean, every day when every week when I'm training with you, and we actually started squatting, every week I've been able to increase by 25, 30 pounds on the bar every week.
Yeah, we started with barely being able to fire quad and barely being able to, do a very emphasis
Assisted.
on very assisted, pistol squat.
Yeah.
Starting with unilateral training. So for those of you that have surgery on one side or the other, you have to break your training up unilaterally a lot.
A lot.
Just that why in a rehab setting, because you're essentially retraining your your neurons, your motor patterns, all of your nervous system that's essentially running and turning on and activating those muscles. So it's a very tedious process, which is why you have a physical therapist. And that's, one of their main gigs is to, re-teach your body how to use itself. And it's a really interesting process actually to watch and to see, on a week by week basis, oh, this is where we are. Like, oh, now this is starting to work a little bit better. And we're getting better activation here. And and just the feedback, and now we're getting more coordination. Now we're getting more activation.
Balance, and
we can balance better. All of a sudden, 1 week there was no more limp when you walk.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just, the nerves were basically doing their job, and the motor recruitment was just becoming more normal, and it just takes time.
I think one thing that helped my mindset throughout the rehab too is I actually videoed some of those very, very assisted pistol squats in the very beginning. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is terrible or whatever, and just how shaky and how assisted it really was. And then a week later I videoed the same thing. I was like, oh. And and I've continued to video different things to rewrite the story in my head.
Absolutely.
Because my feelings will lie to me, or my brain will lie to me and tell me it's something different. I think that translates into almost anything in life.
Oh, for sure.
Whether you're somebody that's experiencing extreme anxiety or somebody that's experiencing great depression, taking those incremental steps of doing something different with it every day, and surrounding yourself with people that have the expertise, whether it be going to a therapist, whether it be going to a physician that can help you with medication at times, but doing those incremental steps to build a different story and to create the different mindset of, I'm better than I was yesterday, or, and that's not to say you're going to have, bad days, because you will have bad days, but it's, again, being consistent and moving forward.
I think sometimes people think bad days mean 2 steps back.
No.
And that's not necessarily true. You just, one aspect of your life, shit the bed, and so you just got to deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Some things you just can't control.
No, absolutely.
The important thing is, like you said,
you can control your mindset.
Yes,
you can control your response to it.
Absolutely.
That's the only thing you can control is your response and your mindset.
Yeah.
And so, that's something that I'm living. and so the reality is that you move forward when life shits the bed, like you said. You clean it up and you say, okay, that's not going to happen again, and you keep going.
It comes down to discipline.
It does.
Yeah. So, how's the knee feeling now after all the knee talk?
Where
are we at?
There are good days and bad days. This week I squatted more than I've squatted with the bar. We did 185 sets of 185.
185.
And this is 13 weeks out from surgery?
Yeah, 13 weeks out from surgery.
Maybe 13?
185 to a 15.5-inch box for sets of
10.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And then we did some reverse banded squats.
Yeah, then we did reverse banded
at
squats.
275. Yeah. So what is amazing about the process to me is I can tell that I made the right decision in getting the knee replacement, because I have muscles, stabilizing muscles, that never got sore when I squatted before. And so I think that it's corrected some inconsistencies or some some issues that I had going on.
Some
Yes,
compensatory issues.
yes. Whereas compensating just naturally, your brain automatically does it.
Yes.
So the knee is doing great. I mean, honestly, I have no complaints. I have to be mindful and intentional. You know, at night I wear a leg sleeve that helps reduce swelling. And so I do those things to prep myself, and so I'm very intentional. I plan ahead with what I'm going to do and make sure I have plenty of movement, because I drive 45 minutes to an hour one way to get to work, and then when I come back, so that's a lot of time sitting in one position in the car. So when I get out, I know that I'm going to have to fire the clock, because it's like, what did you just do?
Yeah.
So I have to be very intentional about things like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of training, preferred training style. What's your preferred training style?
Eric Cafferty style. Yeah. So, I started writing the DP and stuff like that. Definitely, and you do a great job varying my volume and intensity level, and we use RPE, and I will confess, publicly, that it probably took me 2 years to fully understand the RPE.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope.
It is. And what's funny is when I think I got a good handle of, okay, RPE of 6, I'm 4 reps away from my max. My RPE is oftentimes different than when I'm training with Eric, and what he perceives as my
I'm sure it is.
my RPE. He's like, no, that was not a 6. That was
It's that objective perspective. You know what
It
I'm saying?
is. It's funny. Well, and again, video helps with that, because you can objectively look at it and say, okay, that moved way too fast, or that moved slower, or whatever. Because your mind tells you another story, and your feelings may tell you another story.
Yeah.
But now that I've gotten used to it, I suggest it all the time to people, and I take the time to explain it and all this stuff. But because I think it's a good methodology.
Yes, I tend to agree. So what? I love this question. We're gonna throw some curveballs at you. Yes, these were not in the questionnaire. These are the best.
No.
If you could have dinner with 3 people, dead or alive, who would they be in life? You listen to the podcast.
I know, I do.
Totally
So
prepared for
So
this.
I was thinking, I have two people that I would just love to spend time with and just soak in their wisdom, and one of them would be Trevor Moab.
Oh, yeah.
I would absolutely love to have dinner with him and talk more in depthly about that neutrality, that neutral thinking, and that ball takes what it takes. And then I would also love to have dinner with David Goggins.
Oh, dude, same. Yeah.
I just
He's been mentioned 4
oh
or
my
5
gosh.
times probably.
Listening to his book and following him on Instagram and all those things, his mindset is absolutely insane.
There's only one problem with that. I don't know if that eats.
True.
You never see him eat.
That's true.
He's got to be.
That's a really good point.
But I've never seen him.
Maybe he's always shredded.
So I would know what I would do then?
It's just going to be.
Yeah. So what I would do is while he's running, I'd ride a bike next to him, because I could not run to keep up with him. But I'd be riding a bike, and I'm sure we could have a legit conversation, because he can totally do the Instagram video and talk while he's running.
Dude, I think that's when you have your best thoughts, though.
Oh, absolutely.
Dude, if somebody were to talk to me as I'm like biking my butt up a steep trail, there would be no sugarcoat at all.
No.
Think about it. When he's running along there, just doing work, it is straight from the heart, honestly, you're getting out of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But those are 2 great choices. Do you have a third?
I would probably, you're going to laugh, but I would probably love to have dinner with, I would love to have dinner with Russell Wilson, quarterback of the Seahawks.
Okay. Fair enough. Very fair.
I just think he's an amazing human being, and of course, I'm a Seahawks fan.
Ah, there it is.
And watching him and his integrity, I think is pretty incredible. And then he adheres to Trevor Moab, and that's his mindset coach.
Yeah.
And so hearing how it plays out in that level of an athlete and what he's learned in his experience would just be amazing.
Yeah. Fair enough.
I'd ask him how to make some.
Yeah.
You would what?
I would ask him how to make some of those plays.
Right?
I'm thinking of one where they put the dime right at the back of the end zone, where no one in their right mind
would have
could
tried.
catch it except that dude in his.
I know. It's neutral thinking. I mean, it is truly mindset. I truly believe that. Yeah.
I just kind of willed it happen. Willed it
Yeah.
happen. Freaking made it happen.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we know one book, Takes What It Takes,
Yeah.
which I read. I think it's really, really good. I certainly got some good tips and pointers and tricks mentally from that book. So what are a couple other books that you'd recommend to people?
You Can't Hurt Me, the David Goggins book too.
It's fantastic.
I just think that's just so inspirational and so motivating.
Yeah.
I mean, if that doesn't make you want to take up running
Yeah.
or whatever it is,
Right.
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Nothing else would make me, something has to be chasing me in order to make me run.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah. And then The Coddling of the American Mind.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Which I've also read. Recommended to me.
Yeah.
It was honestly, it was tough for me to read.
Yeah. Well, I will confess that I listened to it first on Audible,
Oh, okay.
and it's good, listening to an Audible.
It's not that it's a hard read. It's just
Technical at times.
It's technical at times, but it's just frustrating.
Yes.
Oh.
Well, I will confess, I spent 75% of the book being depressed. Like,
Yeah. It's
oh my
depressing.
God, what are we going to do about this? And what's interesting is I don't think I recommended it to you until 2020, 2019.
Oh, it wasn't that long.
No. And I think it was 2020. It was
Yeah.
2020, just recently.
Yeah.
And I thought the book had been written actually in that year.
Yeah.
And it
so
was
it's so applicable to that
2018.
year.
Yeah,
Yes.
It was written
And
several years
yes,
earlier.
it was 2018, and they did the research for the book like
And
in
they
2017.
Called it.
Oh, exactly.
That's going on.
It is.
Well,
It
I'm
is an
pretty sure
amazing
it's
book.
actually-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, but you have to get to the end of the book, and they talk about resources and ways to
Yeah.
correct some of this thinking
Yeah.
that we've instilled in our kids, and I think about it a lot in my profession
Oh,
and
absolutely.
in the school system as far as
Because these guys are PhDs in
Yes.
psychology.
psychology, and one's at like a statistician,
Yeah,
and he's a
that's right.
lawyer,
Yeah.
Oh,
and
wow.
he actually fights for rights, right?
They're
He's an
brilliant
activist, yeah.
dudes, like
And
both of them.
Just talking about, in this day and age of how thinking is offensive, your thoughts are
Yeah.
offensive, and because of
Like
that,
specifically at university and things like that.
Yeah.
And students being triggered and offended and getting
by just
teachers-
thoughts.
by just thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay. And like getting teachers
Yeah.
fired and all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's like it is wild.
I can understand that. Very frustrating.
Like, and it's like the story of people with zero responsibility. Yes, responsibility. People with zero like accountability for their actions. Like they just, it's like literally children just being whiny.
Yeah.
But like getting
Brittany
people in
comes
trouble
home every day from the pharmacy with a question. Just like an experience. Again after
Oh,
again and
yeah,
again.
I'm
just
sure
like,
at the
I can't
pharmacy. Yeah.
even imagine. I would have been fired so fast.
Yeah.
Like I think I would have been, but anyway.
Well, you got to read the book. I don't want to tell the whole thing, but they start out some of the root causes of what's caused that shift in thinking of being offended all the time by just thoughts.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And they talk about the culture of safetyism that was created. And this is when my parents were parenting, and when I started parenting, and how we wanted to protect and coddle and put this cocoon of safety around our kids without.
You can't expose them.
Yeah,
To things that are
you
gonna
gotta.
cause
I'm
them
gonna give a
trauma.
teaser that you need to look it up, read the book, and they talk about the peanut allergy
Mhm.
research,
Oh, yeah.
and you got to go home and read it
Well,
because
because I have a peanut allergy.
yeah, but it is
Yeah.
fascinating. Yeah, but it is fascinating. I'm not saying that peanut allergies do not exist, because I totally believe they exist.
No. I
Yeah.
was in the ER. I know.
Yeah. You're like, I know they exist.
But yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying.
But they did
Even
it-
as a person who experiences them, like the mindset that you're saying, just like that. I don't know. I
You
don't
gotta.
wanna get too
I
much
want you
away,
to
but
read
I
the
think
study because
I
it was
get what I
it
think
was
I get what you're saying.
fascinating.
It is wild. Yeah.
It is
Cool.
fascinating that
Cool.
a study that was actually conducted, a longitudinal study,
Mhm.
where they had control groups and all these different things that they conducted about the creation of some peanut allergies.
Yeah.
And like legit peanut allergies.
Yeah, I've had conversations about that before. with people.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Very
Really interesting.
But yeah, that's
So I would probably have dinner with those two guys too, Jonathan Wright.
Oh yeah,
I would love to pick their brain
Yeah.
and how, as a school psychologist in
for
particular,
sure. Yeah.
how they could see that my profession could help shift some of that. And in the book, they actually give some websites and some different programs that are actually being instituted in the school system, elementary and middle school and high school, that help fight that.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a wild issue, and that's one thing. It's like, we're speaking more to adults, obviously, but, teaching people to have accountability for their actions and take responsibility and, just own up to things that, you're doing wrong and things that you're doing right.
Well,
you know what I mean?
And to also be able to have a dialogue with somebody that doesn't agree with you, and not take it to some level that is harmful, and realize, not everybody has to agree. We can each have our own opinions, and that's okay, and that's what makes us all stronger. Yeah.
Cool. So yes, great book. All right, my favorite question: top 2 movies.
Oh gosh, I forgot about that on your podcast.
That's the best question. It's a solid question.
Oh gosh.
Good.
I know you really stumped me. I don't know. You're glad this happened.
Surprise.
to see me stumped for a moment. I do like movies. I know I do. I like Remember the Titans.
Okay, there you go. That's not surprising.
Yeah. Well, it's because the underdog story and the grit and the perseverance and
that's a great one, for sure.
So I really like that one. I could go too. I also love a good, romantic comedy.
I was going to say rom-com.
Yeah, I do. And there's too many to think of. I like The Proposal.
Oh yeah.
Dude,
Casey got me into P.S. I Love You. Oh,
yes.
Dude, that's true, dude. Big time.
I love the fact that you just admitted that publicly.
There's nothing wrong with admitting
yes.
That is good. Admittedly, I hate most rom-coms, but that one hit me right in the feels. It's just...
There was one I watched the other day. It had Julianne Hough, and I don't remember the name of it at all. But anyway, that one hit me pretty good.
Yeah, there's some.
But I was like high school. Like I was a teenage boy. And it's like,
I was at a conference or a training the other day, and the speaker happened to show a clip from The Breakfast Club, and I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot how good that movie was. I need to go back and watch that again. Well, and just in my profession, it shows so many things that you see play out. So, even though it was created so long ago and whatever, it still happens. And good stuff.
Excellent. Okay. Rom-com.
Yeah.
Okay. So, favorite, or I should say, top gym song and or band. What's your music playlist looking like?
Wow, I have a very specific one that I listen to. Pretty much that one every single time I'm in the gym. And if I hear a song that is that I named my playlist.
Let's hear it.
It's kind of funny. Well, or cheesy. I don't know. The Power Play.
The Power Play. I love it. I really like it.
The Power Play. Seriously,
the Power Play.
That is the name of my. So
that's hockey terminology right there. I love it. There you go.
Power Play. Yeah, it is. You're right. But I have some Imagine Dragons in there.
Okay.
And I have some Ex-Ambassadors.
Okay.
And I also have one that I just happened to listen. And it was actually on a meet day. It just randomly played on the radio while I was getting ready for a meet day. It's called White Flag, and it's by Bishop Briggs. And it's I'm not going to surrender. I'm not putting up my white flag.
There you go.
And so I immediately, because it has the right beat, it has the right feel to it. I can't.
It's got the right message.
Yes, and so that's the other thing is from
message is important.
From It Takes What It Takes.
Yeah.
I should get some kind of reimbursement for this,
you
probably.
Trevor, send this woman a check.
I knew this just because of being a school psychologist too. What you put into your mind totally affects what comes out of you and your behavior. So I have a very specific playlist that it's the message behind everything that I choose specifically for my playlist. I have a good upbeat, and it can never ever ever be country.
It was a very hard rule.
Yeah, very hard no on the country for me. I try. I really try
Sorry,
at
Boone.
times.
Yeah,
I know. When I heard
Everyone-
that, I was like,
everyone
oh, I
did.
still like you though, Boone. I really still like you.
Yeah,
And-
we can still,
and,
see,
yeah.
we can still disagree.
Right, right, exactly. And I'm not going to egg his car or anything like
Right.
that.
No.
But it has to have this message in it. I also, Gladiator is another good one. And I also added Legends Are Made. That one's a huge one for me. It's all because of the message. And because, how many times are you listening to the radio in the morning or whatever, and a song comes on, and it gets stuck in your head for the day, and it may totally be a message that's not going to add anything to your life.
It's like slapping the hose or something,
Yeah, it's like, it's like no benefit to the day. No benefit.
And
This just devalued me.
You're right.
seriously though.
Absolutely.
And so when I'm going in intentionally into my day, I listen to a different playlist in the morning. But when I'm lifting, I have a very specific power play.
The power play.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it.
My little
The power
secret.
play.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I don't know if I should be embarrassed about that or not. But.
No, that's perfect. That's great. So let's Hunter, this is your question, bro.
It's a one, but
Come on. Who is it?
I don't know.
Did you ask it? You were like, I don't know what the question is.
So, no, the question is, who would play you in a movie about Steph?
Yeah.
Oh.
Who would be the actress?
Who would be the lucky actress?
Reese Witherspoon, I would love.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
she's not, I think she's a strong female.
She's not strong enough, though.
Who do you think it would be?
I think what's happened, we're not going to find someone who's strong enough. Who is
But the character. I mean,
who's the actress that plays the mother on the Blind Side?
oh, yeah.
Oh, is it Sandra Bullock?
Sandra Bullock.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see
Strong.
that. I like it. See, this is a
Yes,
nice question.
I would totally take that.
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
totally take that. Yeah,
Sandra Bullock. That's
I agree.
The one.
she has
Same with
perseverance
facial
and grit,
structure.
and yeah.
No problem with that.
The
Yeah.
Blind Side also great.
Oh yeah, I should have listed that one.
Yeah.
That's probably one of. That's probably.
That's right.
so
That's
close.
Write down.
right.
It is. Get you right in the feels, and
Oh,
it makes you
right.
motivated, and yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Definitely. So, top 2 role models or influences in your life. What would you say?
Is that on your list?
It was.
What did I say?
What did I say?
'Cause I'm sure I had something really
You
good.
mentioned both of them.
Well, yeah. Truly, I have a strong faith in God, and so my faith is pivotal to how I approach life and to my mindset of things. So again, what I put in is what I'm going to get out, and so I have to be grounded in that. So my faith in God is huge, and I give Him credit for a lot of what goes on in my life and how I get through things in my life.
Yeah.
And so that definitely is the first role model I have. And then I'd probably say Trevor Millad. Again, I should probably get paid for this.
You should.
We're going to reach out to him.
You should hashtag him
He's tagged.
in
Oh,
this.
right.
I think I've actually hashtagged him on some of my meet. When I talk
Yeah.
about a meet or whatever,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
putting in the work, I use his hashtags all the time. But yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, his book is good. Everybody check it out. Read it. Read her other choices. They're great. And follow this amazing, talented powerlifter who's going to be breaking records
Absolutely.
near you soon.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we're on the road to recovery. We're going to be back squatting over 2 bills next week probably, and then we're halfway there.
Amazing.
Halfway there, and then we got to work on that. But that's different.
It's all part of the process.
It is.
But
It
we
is.
have a plan.
We do.
We have a plan.
Intentional. Well, what we did is we measured what my depth would be in inches, and then we measured where I was at that week. And I've already, I think the week that we measured it, I was at 17 and a quarter, and I need to be at 13.
Oh.
And the next week I was at 15 and a half.
Yeah, I think we need to be at 13.5.
Yeah.
Copy that.
So we actually looked, incrementally, again, intentionality. I need to decrease my inches by this much every month.
And we're ahead of schedule.
We are.
It sounds like
We are.
Yeah.
So
Very positive things. Well, Stephanie, I cannot thank you enough for making the time to join us.
it was fun.
Your story is certainly one that people should be able to relate to, even though you're a lot stronger. It's coming from a place where, you're just like a lot of people, just getting into P90X, getting in,
Yeah.
getting into
I
some
am
sort of gym
very
setting.
average.
That is not the case. Well,
Yeah.
maybe an average start. But that's everybody. Everybody.
Yes,
has an average
absolutely.
start. But,
Absolutely.
and being average is fine as long as you're trying to get better.
Yeah,
Right? Just trying
absolutely.
to improve yourself. But,
Absolutely.
it just so happens that your genetic capability is astounding, to say the least. So, anyway,
Thank you.
I thank you so much for being on. I continue to be impressed by you, and I am looking forward to getting this rehab wrapped up and getting back on the platform. So,
Me
thank you.
too. Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, thanks for listening, everybody. Listen to the podcast, click all the links.
New episodes every Tuesday.
New episodes every Tuesday on Taco Tuesday. So we'll catch you later.
Thank you for joining us on the Powerlifting Podcast. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. For more content like this, follow Eric Cafferty and the Mecca Gym on all social media platforms.